about US dollar, and I'm going to explain why US dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Everyone knows that the US dollar is the biggest currencies and the strongest currencies around the world, and it's most widely used currencies around the world. I want to explain to the common people how US and why and how US dollar have become the reserve currency of the world, and what are the factors that include that needed to be to become a reserve currency of the world, to become the strongest currencies. What are the factors that is involved, okay, in becoming the reserve currency of the world? So I will try to explain with simple explanations. So let's get started. Okay guys, now we're going to talk about why dollar is the reserve currency of the world. First of all, before knowing that why dollar is the reserve currency of the world, we need to know that how US dollars become the reserve currency of the world. That's the most important question, how. So I'm going to go with a brief history about how did the US dollar become the reserve currencies, how did the US become the apex country economy in the world. So we're going to talk about it first. All right, so let's get started. So guys, before the US become the apex economy, the strongest economy, before the rise of the US, the entire world, the countries around the world, they use a monetary system, and which they call it as a golden standard. What does a golden standard means that? Basically, golden standard means that all of their currencies are backed with the gold. Okay, let's say you can say like a $1. Okay, let's say $1 here is equal to, let's say, is equal to one gold. Okay, so one gold. So this is what a basic definition of gold standard. So all of the currencies are linked to the gold. Okay, so if I had $1 with me, and that's the same dollar, with that same dollar I can buy one gram of gold, 1 ounce of gold, depending on the different units, but yeah, gold. So it's basically currencies are packed with the gold, right? This is the definition of gold. So you need to understand, before the rise of the US, entire world, okay, and before the US, basically the superpower used to be Britain, and Britain used to follow the golden standard monetary system. So all the countries around the world, they used to follow the golden standard, which is like they have a faith in the gold. It's still there's a faith in the gold, but the currencies used to be valued against the gold. Okay, so that's what the system was before the rise of the US. So this is what the definition of the gold standard is. So now we're going to understand that what happened after the rise of the US. Before the World War One, okay, the majority of the countries, or majority of the developed countries, peg their currencies with gold. Okay, has to stabilize the exchange currencies. Okay, so the good thing about the gold standard is that there's no the currency exchange currencies are very stabilized. There's no inflation, the inflation that we are facing right now because of the fiat currencies. Okay, if your currencies are linked to the gold, okay, it will be linked to the price of the gold. Okay, there will be a very stable, okay, and there's no problem of inflations. All right, that's the thing. But during the World War, a lot of countries went to the war. Those countries, they went to the war, they start to suspend the gold standard just for to pay military expenses with the paper money. What does that mean, and why they suspended? Okay, there is limitations in gold standard. Okay, what are the limitations in the gold standard that the country faced? I'm going to explain that. First, let's imagine hypothetically a country have around, let's say, 50 tons of gold. Okay, in this 50 tons of gold, there's a limitation that of this 50 tons of gold, they can only print a certain amount of currencies. Okay, let's say with the 50 tons of golds, they can only print, let's say, around 100 millions of currencies they can, according to the golden standard. Okay, 100 millions, that's how much they can print. Okay, if they want to print more further money, okay, to pay for their military expenses, to go to the war, to buy resources, they need more gold in their reserve. Okay, this is what you call that golden standard limitation is. And okay, it is not actually limitation, it's the nature of the gold standard, right? So if they have 50 tons of entire country has 50 tons of golds, okay, they can only print $100 million of the currencies. If they want to print more, they need to add more gold. But during the war, okay, the country start to lose a lot of golds. Okay, so what they do is just to remove this gold standard. If they remove this gold standard, Okay, so they don't have to keep gold as a reserve. They can print how much money they want. Okay, the problem with the printing how much money they want is basically the problem is inflation. Okay, they're trying to turn from the gold standard into fiat currencies. Okay, the one we are right now. Okay, so this is what happened, which you can see here. If they suspend the gold standard, which devalues their currencies. Okay, and the Britain, so during the World War One, Britain they hold their gold standard, but eventually after the 3 year of war, they had to suspend the gold standard too. Okay, at this point of time during the World War One, America is the one who is growing in terms of economy, because the major countries like Britain, France, and all the countries are in the war. The America is the one who's supplying them the resources, any kind of resources. It can be weapons, it can be food, it can be shelters, it can be raw materials, whatever it is. America is the one who is supplying the resources to the to this all the countries that are in war. This is during the war. Alright, so during the World War II, what happens here? Before entering to the World War II, America served as an alliance for supply of weapons and other goods. As I said before, during the World War, America is the one that are the major. They're the only country they're benefiting in the war is the America. They're supplying the weapons, they're supplying the goods, whatever the resources required for a country for in the war. America is basically funding the war of World War II. Okay, and America is the one who's making lots of money, like billions of monies. Okay, but the thing is that during that, as I said, the world is using the monetary system which is called the golden standard. Okay, whenever America is selling weapons, okay, and America is taking in exchange as a gold. If Britons want weapons, they give golds to America, and America sells them the weapons. If any country want resources, food, shelter, food, or any kind of crops, raw materials, anything they need from America, America asks for golds, and they give them the golds, and the countries buy the goods, whatever the goods that they needed for the war and all that. So at that time, once the World War II end, the only countries that is surviving, the only country that is thriving, the only country that are doing well economically, politically, is the only one country is America. Why? After the end of the World War II, America is the one country in the world who hold the highest gold reserve around the world, which is almost 75% of the gold reserve of the world is holding by the America. Okay, no countries, of course, all the developed countries like Britain, France, Germans, Poland, all are like they're crushed in the war. No doubt Britain won the war, but still they lost. It's a way of losing. Like, what's the point if your country is not the same anymore and the treasury is destroyed in that country? America is the one that's thriving. Okay, 75% of gold reserves hold with America at that point of time. Here, there's a chart I would like to show the United States gold reserve back then. Okay, it was in 1910. You can see here it was around 2,000 tons the America used to hold gold, but that after the World War One and Two, it went, guys, it went to 20,000 tons, which is like 75%, guys. Literally 75% of the gold reserve around the world is held by America, only America. So that's the reason America has become the powerful country at that after the World War II. Okay, all the countries around the world are destroyed their economy. America is the one that's standing and thriving. They're holding the highest gold reserve. Even now, in 2024, if you check the gold reserve list, okay, you get it in the Google or anywhere. The country that hold the highest gold reserve is still America, is with around 8,133 tons America hold. I know you guys are thinking like it was 20,000 and how did it become 8,000? It has in history. I'm going to explain that. But still, America holds around 8,000 tons of golds. Okay, the second is German, Italy, and still they are nowhere near America. America still holds the highest gold reserve. Okay, so now this is the point. Okay, this is the reason America start to become the powerful country. Okay, and before America it used to be Britain. Okay, now America is the one is the in highest power, and so they start to play their role. Okay, what happens after the World War II? America they invited around 44 countries into America in New Hampshire, they call it as a, there's a program, or not program exactly, they call it just an agreements, just to do an agreement, which they call it as a Bretton Woods agreements. Okay, you can see here it's called a Bretton Woods agreements. Okay, what does a basically a Bretton Woods agreement means? Basically, America said to the world, okay, the America invited 44 countries, and America said that our dollar, we want to link our dollar to the gold. Okay, basically gold standard, we are following the gold standard, and America wants all the countries around the world to link their currency to the dollar, not to the gold, the dollars. So like you can say euro, okay, so euro, okay, so euro, British pound, whatever you call it. Okay, so like all the currency, all the major currencies, okay, currencies, okay, should be linked to the dollar. Okay, dollar, and the dollar will be linked to the, as you know, it's gold, right? So this is the point. So in this Bretton Woods agreement in 1973, I guess, yeah, 1972 or 73. Okay, that time America invited 44 countries to agree on a Bretton Woods agreements. Okay, where America says that the dollar is linked to the gold, and we want all the currencies around the world to be linked to the dollars. So now all the major currencies around the world, they are linked to the dollars, and the dollars are linked to the gold. You might be thinking that why these 44 countries would agree to the Bretton Woods. Okay, why they would agree? First of all, you need to understand it's a common sense. Okay, most of the countries around the world, they are destroying the war. They have nothing left in their in their they have no power, they have nothing left, they don't have enough money, power to oppose the superpower at that point of time, right? So America is a superpower. America said that we are linking our dollar to the gold, and we want you to link your currency to the dollar. Okay, so now I'm going to explain you why countries agreed to the Bretton Woods. Okay, first of all, the most simple one is that, yeah, US dollar is backed by the gold. Okay, such that 1 ounce, okay, 1 ounce is basically 28.35 grams of gold is equal to $35. So you can see here, if you have $35, okay, you will get around 28.35 grams of gold. So that's basically the link, okay, the exchange rate between the gold and the dollar at that point of time. Okay, the first reason is that America said that if you own a dollar, okay, you can convert your dollar to the gold. Okay, and how much? If you have $35, you can convert it into 28.35 grams. So that's the first point. Second point, dollar can be redeemed in its value in gold. This means that any country that hold golds, okay, and any country that hold dollar, okay, and they can come to the America, or they can give the dollar to the America, and America in exchange will give them the gold. Okay, like I said, if you have $35, okay, and if you want the gold, you can just tell America, and America will give you, in exchange of 35, they'll give you 28.35 grams of gold. So that's the first point. Second point is that you can redeem the dollar to the gold. That's the reason. And third reason is that this built a trust in international trade. Okay, what I mean by that? Okay, now basically I'm explaining that why countries agreed to the Bretton Woods agreements. Okay, here's the reason. First, as I said, you can convert the gold, you can convert the dollar to the gold. And second thing is the build a trust in international trade. What does the build trust in international trade means? It's basically, imagine that India, okay, and let's say imagine India and Pakistan. These two countries, they want to trade to each other. So India is selling goods to Pakistan, and in exchange Pakistan will want to pay India. Okay, but Pakistan is planning to pay to India in Pakistani currencies, which is Pakistani rupees. So what makes India trust Pakistani rupees? Okay, how can they trust that your country is stable, your currency is stable, your Pakistani rupees will be stable, the government is stable? So stability is a very important international trade. How can India can trust that Pakistan will not create inflation, would not print more money in order to devalue the Pakistan currencies? If Pakistan, they sell in Pakistan rupees to India, and India hold the Pakistani currencies, and next day Pakistan is planning to print more money, which will devalue the currency that India is holding. So there is an issue here in between. So what happens that imagine Pakistan pays India in dollar, okay, in dollar, guys, okay. So I'm talking about in dollar. Back then in 1973, okay, if Pakistan is paying to India in dollar, the India will be like, okay, if they're paying me in dollar, I can exchange my dollar as a in a gold with America. So that's the reason it build a trust international trade. Any countries around the world, China, America, Russia and Japan, if they want to trade to each other, they will just trade with the dollar, because they know us. If you give me a dollar, I can easily convert into the into the gold. Has it written in Bretton Woods agreement. So that's the reason all around the world they accepted dollar has their peg currencies, okay, to peg to their currencies. And the fourth point is the rising of IMF and the World Bank. Okay, this is the fourth point why all the countries agreed to the Bretton Woods, because during the World War II, all the countries has destroyed their home, their infrastructures have been destroyed, their natures, a lot of destructions in their countries. Now after the World War II, they want to rebuild their countries. In order to rebuild their countries, they need money, they need resources, and the only country that can provide is America. So America, they what you call it, they introduced IMF and World Bank to the world, and they said that to rebuild your economy, America is going to help them, and America will give you the loan in dollars. So that's the reason all the weak countries around the world, they agreed to the Bretton Woods. They said, okay, we're gonna link our currencies to the dollar, okay, because they can get loan from the US like IMF and the World Bank in loan in dollars. And the fifth point is the petrodollar agreements. Petrodollar agreements is basically that Saudi Arabia is the major oil reserve around the world, and America is the biggest alliance of Saudi Arabia back then. Okay, so that time America did a deal with Saudi Arabia, which is they call it as a petrodollar agreements. The agreements basically that America's going to provide protection to the Saudi Arabia, okay, in terms of militaries, and Saudi Arabia will sell the oil, which is the major commodities around the world. So most important commodities to run the world, and they promise that if America provide them protections, and Saudi Arabia will sell their oil only in dollars. Okay, so like one barrel of oil they're going to sell it to the only in dollar form, in dollar currencies. If any countries around the world wants to buy oil, they can buy only in dollars. They cannot sell. If India want to buy, they cannot give Indian rupees. Okay, they cannot. If Japan is buying, they cannot give Japan yuan. They can buy only in dollars. This is the reason whole world agreed to the Bretton Woods. Okay, the first one, you can convert your gold, so you can convert your dollar to the gold. Okay, this Bretton Woods dollar can build a good international trade. A rising of the IMF and World Bank. If we need loan from America, it only be provided in dollar form. And also, if you want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia or any other Gulf countries, you have to buy it in dollar form. So in dollar currencies. So that's the reason countries has agreed to the Bretton Woods. Okay. So next we're going to talk about, after the Bretton Woods agreements, the dollar become the reserve currency of the world. Okay, so you can understand that why I have explained that why dollar has become the reserve currency of the world that time. First of all, the countries start to hold dollar instead of gold in the reserve. Before the World War II or World War One, the countries used to be in a golden standard, which means that they have to keep gold as a reserve in their treasuries. But right now, instead of gold, they start to hold dollar as a reserve currencies. Okay, as a reserve, safety of or foreign exchange reserve has a goal. This point is that needing a place to store the dollar, countries begins buying US treasuries, which they consider to be safe store of money. Now many countries start to hold dollars, okay, but they don't want to hold the dollars in cash forms. So they in order to store the dollar in somewhere else, what they do is they go and buy US treasuries in. Okay, so what does this exactly means? That okay, America, US, okay, if they want to run their economy, they need what you call this as a debt. Debt basically means they borrow money from public, from international, from institutions, from countries, to run their countries. So how do does America does this? Basically, they issue bonds which they call as a treasury securities. These bonds, let's say like America, they want $1,000 to build an infrastructures, $1,000, right? Now $1,000 they need it. So what happened? China has $1,000, it has a reserve holding. So what China will do? China will give them this $1,000, okay, for, let's say, depending on the bonds, let's say for 5 years. China will give them, and in return, America will return back this $1,000 with interest, which might be like around $5 or $50 or even $100 of interest. Okay, so basically now China, the beneficial of China is that they are storing their reserve, and at the same time they're making little bit of income has an interest rate. Okay, so around the world right now, if you see that China and Japan is the highest holder of the US treasuries. They hold US treasuries. If because the China start to make a lot of money in dollars, they hold these dollars by buying US debts. So this was happening when the America was strong, and America's dollar is the reserve currency of the dollar after the World War II. This was happening. This was the scenario back then. Now here the turning points happen. Here something interesting happens here. So this is what we're going to understand, that after in 1973 America went into war with Vietnam. So America started to spend a lot of money. As I said, war is very expensive things. Okay, so America start to spend like deficit spendings. Deficit spending means that more than their income, they spend more than their income. If their income is around 100, they spend around 150, 160 kind of expense they are doing it. So what happens? America started to float a lot of paper money. Okay, so basically, has America promised during the Bretton Woods that our currencies is linked to the gold. Okay, so we want all the currencies of the world to be linked to the dollar. So what happened when America went to the Vietnam War? They spent a lot of money. They start to print money, and they are not, what do you call that? They are not increasing this gold reserve in their treasuries. Instead of, they are not increasing the gold reserve, but they are printing more money. When this news comes out, all the countries who are holding gold, holding dollars, they start to kind of frighten. They think that dollar is not gonna be there for a long. So all the countries around the world, they start to give the dollar and take in exchange they take the gold. So all the countries like India, Japan, and all the countries like them, they comes to America, they tell like, okay, just take your dollars, give us the gold. So a lot of like countries started demanding for a gold from the America in return, instead of the dollars. And during that time, America started to lose the gold reserve from, like I said, from 20,000 tons it went to 8,000 tons, because all the countries, they're afraid that America is not winning the war from the Vietnam, and they are printing a lot of money, and they are not even keeping the gold reserve. They're not increasing the gold reserve. Without increasing the gold reserve, they start to print a lot of money. That's the reason the countries that holding the dollars, they kind of frightened. They don't want to hold dollars. They want their gold back. So they go to the America and they say like, give us the gold, give us the gold. Okay, so at that point of time, in 1973, the president was Richard Nixon, he was the president of United States back then, and he did something unexpected something. And what he did, here you can see that President Richard Nixon forced to intervene and delink the dollar from the gold, which means that it says that here you can see gold reserve of America in 1950 is used to be 22,000 tons. Because America is in war and they start to print money, the countries around the world, they start to demand for a gold instead of dollars. So there it went down to 10,000. When it happens, Richard Nixon, the president of America, he was worried. He is worried that they're going to lose all the gold they have in their reserve. So in order to avoid that, he announced what you call it as a here. He said that for temporary reason, we gonna delink, okay, the dollar from the gold. Basically, if you have a dollar, you can exchange it with the gold. But right now, we said for temporary reason, we not gonna give you the gold for temporary reason. And back then, America was a superpower, so no country has that guts to oppose America. So America says that we are going to delink the dollar from the delink the gold from the dollar, and we are turning to the fiat currencies. Fiat currencies means currencies that you can only trust according to the government. Okay, before it was linked to the gold, you can trust the currencies with the gold, but now fiat currencies you can trust to the country economy and country's government. So they're delinked. So no countries right now during the war of Vietnam and America, before that countries giving the dollars and taking the gold. But once he announced, the president Nixon announced that we're going to delink the gold, so no countries now allowed to take gold from America. So those countries that they are holding the dollar with them, they cannot exchange into the gold right now. So Nixon announced that we're going to delink it for temporary reason. He said it for temporary, but still he didn't come back to the gold standard. And till now there's no gold standard in America. It's only in fiat currencies. So here, so this is the point where we are at the end. So I have explained you that how America becomes the superpower, how American currencies are the biggest currencies around the world. But once American from the gold standard, they come to the fiat currencies. Still right now, American currencies are the biggest currencies and the highest reserve currencies around the world. All the countries around the world, they feel safe holding dollar instead of holding any other country's currencies. Why is still the case? Okay, because now the dollar is not linked to the gold. Okay, if you have if you have dollar, doesn't mean that you can exchange the gold, right? But now America can print how much money they want because they don't have the gold standard. Okay, so they can fund the Vietnam War. Okay, they can print how much money they want. It's like they have this power of printing that no any country has around the world. Only America has. Still American currency is the biggest currency. And why? I'm going to explain this point. It's very simple points here. Why US dollar is the reserve currency of the world still? First point, US is traditionally strong sovereign nation backed by robust persistent growth. American economy is the highest or biggest economy in the world right now, still now, and their growth is compared to any other countries. They have the best growth, and their GDP is the strongest GDPs. They have around $26 trillion of GDP, and it's growing by 2% year over year, and it's like strongest economy. That's the reason the countries around the world, they have a faith in American economy. That's the reason. The first point is American has the strongest economy. Okay, the second thing is the trust in the stability of the US economy. Around the world, they trust American governments, they trust the American economy, because America's economy is very stable. Any crisis comes up, the country itself, they handle it very well. So that's the reason the world kind of trusts America rather than trust China or Russia. So that's the reason economically they're strong, and economically they're very stable. Here you can see here the GDP of the United States from the 1999 from till here, from around $10 trillion economy, we went to $26 trillion economy. So economy is growing, it's prospering. That's the reason the world trusts the dollar. Still the world trusts the dollar. And here the third point is the major choice for the international trade. Okay, still the dollar is a major choice for international trade. If China wants to trade with India, they trade in dollars because they might not trust each other currencies. So that's the reason any countries, Pakistan, India, they don't trust each other currencies, but they only trust the dollar. So dollar becomes what you call the major choice for the national trade. It's still the major choice for the national trade. So, and the fourth point, before I go to the fourth point, I'm going to show you that the dominance of dollars till now is 2024. You can see here the share of a global foreign exchange reserve is still America has 59% of the what you call the share in global reserve. What of the reserve the world is holding right now, out of this 59% of them are holding dollars. Here you can see the share of export invoicing. What of the exports happening around the world, the country exporting, they export in dollars. 54% of the export are in dollars happening right now. And even you can see the foreign exchange transactions, whatever the exchange transactions happening, 88% are dominated by the dollars. So dollar is like still the dollar is still the reserve currencies of the world, and is doing very well. Here you can see that the fourth major point is, as I said, the petrol dollar. Okay, if any, like India is heavily dependent in oil. right? And many countries like China is also dependent on oil. So major countries around the world, they're dependent on oil. So in order to buy oil, Saudi Arabia, the major Gulf countries, the highest oil reserve countries, they sell in dollars. So that's the reason the country who's dependent on oil, like India, they need to have a dollar as a reserve so that they can buy oil anytime they want. So that's the reason. These are the point. You can see US economically strong, okay, stable economy, major their transactions, major choice for international transactions, and also a petrol dollar. If you want to buy oil, you can only buy with the dollar. These are the reason US dollar is the major currency of the world. And if you are thinking that it can be changed, it might change, and there is another video is coming up that I'm going to make that the fall of the dollar. There's few points that they're going to make the dollar might fall in the future. Maybe a new currency is coming up that can fight, that can stand against the dollar. So if any currency that wants to stand against the dollar, they have to challenge these points. That currency has to be a major choice for the trade. It should be a good choice for buying an oil, and that currency should be stable enough to challenge the dollar. So I'm going to make a video on that pretty soon. So this is the video which explains why the US dollar is the major currency of the world. I hope you guys understand it. I try to explain in the best suitable way, and I hope you guys like this video, and thank you so much for liking my videos and subscribing to my channels, and thank you for motivating me. And next video is coming up about the collapse of the dollars, how the dollar is going to collapse, and what are the indicators that we can see right now. So I'm going to make video on that. So see you.